In today's video, we're going to go through everything wall balls. Everybody wants to be able to do unbroken wall balls. In this video, we're going to go through the training that you need to be doing and the techniques that you need to be doing to be able to do just that. So there's lots of different points we're going to go through. We're going to go through the technique, but we're going to start off with a few tips first. Some of them you're going to think, yeah, that's really obvious. Other ones you're going to think, all right, okay, I need to start adding that in. So number one is develop your strength. And what I mean by strength at this point isn't strength endurance, it's getting stronger. So that's working with heavier weights, doing lower reps to actually build up like your maximal strength. So the exercises that you can do to do that to help with wall balls are going to be things like squats, deadlifts, again, all of these are heavy, lunges, Romanian deadlifts, anything for your posterior chain, quads, and glutes. They're really going to help get you better and get you stronger at doing those wall balls. And another thing to make sure that you develop, and we'll cover this a little bit more later on, is to develop your core so you can hold the correct position when you're doing your wall balls.
That's a big one, isn't it? Core.
So rep ranges to do for getting stronger. You can go as low as one rep and do your 1 RM. I wouldn't overly recommend that, especially unless you've done a lot of weight training. But working a rep range of anywhere from like 5 to 10 is a good place to be working to get that overall, that brute strength.
So when we came into Hyrox, we'd already done quite a lot of weight sessions on our lower body, hadn't we? The issue, what we've done now is because we focused on cardio so much, we are now going back into leg development, strength development and core development.
So that's why you should always keep an amount of your other training in and never cut it back too much, even when you're trying to develop a new priority.
Yeah.
Point number 2, you're going to need to develop your endurance, and that's going to be your muscular endurance and your cardiovascular. So if you get to the wall balls, which as everybody knows in Hyrox, they're last, if you're really blowing, it's going to be your fitness that's going to stop you doing as many as you want to do. So you need to make sure you're fit enough and everything else that's gone before that with your pacing. So when you get to the wall balls, you're not completely exhausted. So you need to get your fitness up to be able to do it. And you also need to get your muscular endurance up to do it. So what I mean by that is if you can't do 100 bodyweight squats, there's no way you're going to be able to do 100 wall balls.
Oh, so that's a test for anybody then?
Yeah.
Easy test, or say
Start
easy.
with that. It'll give you a good starting point for where you're at.
As in going lower, below parallel.
You have to, yeah, that's another one we'll get to, technique. But yeah, making sure that when you're doing your squats, you're going below parallel. So when you're doing your body weight squats and your squat training and your leg training, you're replicating the same distance, if not getting even lower than you would when you're doing your wall balls.
So prior to Hyrox, I didn't even know how to do a full-on squat then, for example, because if I see people now that just do a little dip for a squat, I'm laughing because of the difference of what we have to do for Hyrox, how low we have to get. Not judging or anything.
With squats, most people should be doing ass to the grass squats, but again, that will depend a little bit on
back
how your body's made up and whether your hips will allow you to do it.
Yeah, especially after having kids.
Yes, make sure you're going low enough when you're doing your bodyweight squats, and then start building that up. And you can build, that doesn't mean you have to build up by going, how many can you do all in one go each time? You can build that up by doing 5 sets of 20. So you can still do 100 reps, but break it down into what sets you can actually do. So a good test to do first is do how many bodyweight squats can you do without stopping? Then you can then look to break up that 100 into 4 lots of 25, 5 lots of 20, whatever you need to do to be able to complete the rest.
So I've just remembered something. In one of your plans, at the end of doing a training session, he adds on, I say you add on 50 squats, bodyweight squats. And I remember hitting 20 and then needing a rest. So that makes sense now.
Yeah, that's
you've got to link everything you do to Hyrox in a way, but also you don't, do you? Because you can get so focused on Hyrox that's what we did. This is why we're sharing this. You can get so focused on doing Hyrox moves that you forget about just the core little basics or the conditioning you need for it. Yeah. So anyway,
you can jump in your gym and use some of the leg machines and do high rep leg machines.
But you forget about it. Trust me.
The high rep leg extensions.
Yeah.
It's not the most functional movement, but when you're getting that burning on the muscles, you're still getting something from doing that. So that's that point. You need to develop your cardio endurance and you need to develop your muscular endurance. The next thing to make sure you do is as perfect technique as you can in everything that you do. And we're going to demonstrate this and add this in how the technique for the wall ball should be. But if your technique isn't really, really good, you're going to be inefficient. You want your technique on the wall every rep to pretty much look exactly the same. If you start leaning forwards or catching the ball low, it's going to make you not as efficient as if every rep's the same.
So if I watch videos after doing a Hyrox event and watch other people how they do the wall balls, I've noticed, and probably where we'll show, some people actually catch the wall ball down here when I catch it to my mouth. The amount of times I've hit my own mouth.
Yeah, if you smash yourself in the face, you're about right.
Yeah, and I realised that if you do the wrong technique, you can be so inefficient. But that's only through learning.
A lot of everything's about how efficient you can be, how economic you can be in the movement. That's what makes things easier.
Yeah.
If you're all over the place, it makes it way harder.
Yeah.
But then that's also true when you're then developing it. So when you're doing your squats, if your squats aren't really good squats, and you're doing poor technique because you're trying to lift a heavier weight, or you're trying to grind out the last 10 that you shouldn't really be doing because your technique's gone, don't do that. Get that technique perfect. The Russians are a great example of that. What they'd do from a very young age with their athletes, they'd have them doing body weight squats with a pole overhead, repeated, hundreds every day. They just drill that technique, drill that technique, drill that technique. Then when you start adding weight, it's then a lot easier because your body's got that motor pattern, that movement that you're going to do. So point of that one is when you do them with perfect technique, and do your training when you're doing your squats, deadlifts, any other leg exercise, do them with perfect technique as well. One thing to check first is the distance. So one way to do it is to line the wall ball up where it would be with the wall. That should be a pretty good distance to throw the ball from. If you're too far back here and you're throwing it forwards, if it's making that banging noise, you're probably too far away from it. If you're too close, and then that's going to be awkward. So you want to go roughly there and then practice it and see. Get that distance, set the distance. Next thing to go through is how low you need to go. So you will get no rep if you do that. So if you're doing your wall balls and you're going there, none of them are going to count. You need to be getting, so if that's parallel, you need to just break it. You'll see some will come right low down and use the power of their glutes to drive up. Others will just break parallel, then come up. So the next thing is where to catch the ball. If you catch the ball there, that's going to be awkward to throw it up each time. You want to be underneath it. So set yourself with your hands in the right place. Then from there, up, catch it there. So if I'm doing it, it's already knocked me part over. So I then have to recover. I have to fight that catch and then recover from there to come back up and go again. And what would happen is I'd go there. Oh, it's hard to even throw it. I need to be there. So that's the other thing, body position. I want to be upright, not there. As soon as I'm there, it becomes, oh, now it's a big effort to try and throw it with my arms. I want to be using my legs as much as I can. Your arms shouldn't fatigue when you're doing the wall balls. So what you're trying to get is just that rhythm and flow with it. So we want every rep relaxed. Nice and smooth and controlled as much as you can. Number 4, breathing. If you hold your breath while you're trying to bang out some reps of wall balls, you're going to get very tired very quickly. So just make sure you control your breathing. So if you breathe in as you catch the ball and come down, and then breathe out as you push up, keep that rhythm going with what you're doing with your breathing. Try what works for you. You might do it the opposite way around and go, actually, I feel loads better doing the reverse of that breathing. The key is to try in it and see what works to you and just focus on it. If you can nasal breathe while you're doing it, even better.
Number 5.
Number 5, it's increasing the speed that you do your wall balls. You might be thinking, how can I increase my speed? I catch the ball and then I throw it back up. Some of the top ones are quicker than the other ones. To do if when they'll catch the ball, they'll pull themselves down and then fast drive up. If you're just catching the ball, going through the motions of coming down, coming up slowly and then throwing it, that's going to be slower to do. So it's, again, practice it. Get used to coming down quick, going up quick, but at the same time, incorporating your breathing. The other thing to make sure that you're doing with your training is not to rush the process. Have incremental progression where you're gradually going to increase what you're doing. So in week 1, you might do, say you're doing them 4 sets of 25. Week 1, you might do them body weight. Week 2, you might just hold a 2 kilo dumbbell. You might hold a 3 kilo dumbbell. It doesn't have to go massive jumps up and expect really big progressions. As soon as you make the weight heavier, the amount of reps you're going to do is going to come down unless you've got the tolerance to do it. So just incremental improvements is what you're looking for with your training. Number 7 is add in like HIIT style workouts to your training. Work on where you can work really hard for the equivalent of what you do for say 20 wall balls, and then rest, then go again, then rest. You can do it with wall balls as well. Do them in your training. Do them in sets of 25, 4 sets of 25. Take a 30-second rest. So have longer rest than you're going to actually need to do, but then your body gets used to it. Then a progression with that is you can gradually start reducing down your rest. So it's another thing that you can adjust with your programming to get the most out of what you're doing and a way of improving what you're doing.
And then this next one, number 8, this is the hardest one, I believe, that anybody who's not an elite or an athlete to do, because it's tracking. People forget to track of the progression.
Track your progression, write down what you're doing, even if it's just a note on your phone. If you can look back and see what you did last week and then go, right, okay, this is what I need to do to be a little bit better this week.
Yeah.
Don't expect to get that as a progression.
No.
You're going to go up, and then you might have a week when you're not as good, and then you go again, then you go again. You can even make notes on a week when you don't do so good. Make a note why. You might go, I didn't sleep well last night.
Yeah.
I haven't eaten as well as I should have eaten.
So
and then next
diarise it. Is that the word?
Yeah.
Diarise.
I don't know if diarise is a real word, but it sounds decent. We'll go with that. If it's not, you've made a new word up.
Yeah.
Number 9 is rest and recovery. Just like with any training, you don't get better from doing the training. You actually get worse. You get better and your body adapts to it when you rest and recover.
No one likes to hear that. I struggled with
No.
that. You struggled with that.
Yeah.
When you want something badly enough, resting is boring. That's what you think. And if anyone can relate to that, please comment below, because we have struggled to rest and recover badly.
And that doesn't just mean making sure you're getting 8 hours sleep and eating well. That means taking enough days off to recover when you're doing it. That means having deload weeks when you're doing your training. Just know that when you train, you're in a worse position than when you finish that session, and then you get better by recovering. So
Yeah.
focus hard on recovery.
Yeah, and that's probably why a lot of people need coaches and guidance, because they will make sure you know it's okay to recover and do a deload week because you've been told to do it.
Again, that's the old progression doesn't go like that. Progression might go that, then you have a deload week. Your deload week can actually go up because if you've not been recovering properly throughout the training. So yeah, rest and recovery is so important. And point 10 is make sure you do wall balls. I know it sounds daft, but you don't have to do wall balls for the whole year of your training. So what you can do with your training in your off season, do more squats, do more of the base building stuff by doing squats, deadlifts, all the other things you can do with it. But you do then want to start adding in actually doing wall balls, just so you can get used to the technique, just get used to the movement. It's probably the only one in Hyrox where there's a skill element, where you have to actually hit a target. And if they keep using the electric targets...
Can they see the targets?
Yeah. So if they keep getting the electric targets, I think they're getting harder and harder to hit, because it has to be bang in the middle. So it is a skill to practice hitting the target and repeating the movement over and over again. Practice makes perfect. Get practice them. You want to practice them when you're fresh. You want to practice them when you're fatigued. You want to do some where you do your running, chuck some in at the very end of your training when you're really tired out. But when you're doing that, again, make sure the technique is good. Don't just be adding in 30, 40 wall balls at the end of your training going, yeah, I can grind these out, I'm going to smash these out. And then all of them are terrible technique, because all you're doing is teaching your body how to do them in a poor, inefficient way. So that is our top 10 tips on how to improve your wall balls. Hope you found it interesting. Look out for more videos coming your way.